Well, they repeatedly break the law, never show a moment's remorse, and they laugh at the legal system. Now there are moves for young offenders to be named and shamed.
Everything they just said up there was
Don't swear at me and get.
Ferals. That's exactly what I said, they're just little ferals.
Shouldn't you be at school though? How old are you?
When kids go wild.
Do these kids need to be named and shamed publicly?
It might help. They might stop doing what they do.
What does it achieve? And the simple answer is nothing.
They're no longer a protected species.
You're 14 and you're in the courts.
Child criminals. Until now, their faces couldn't be shown and their names never used.
The government's intention is that younger repeat offenders be named and shamed.
Tonight, we open the doors to our children's courts, the new Queensland laws that for the first time allow us inside the courtrooms to see just how young offenders are dealt with and what the kids and their parents think of the system.
Police, everyone.
They keep getting away with it, like Kirsty's mates have got serious offences and they just get probation.
Yeah, what are they in trouble for?
I don't know, stealing, vandalism, assault,
And when they come here, what sort of punishment do they get?
parole, probation.
Does it make them stop or do they laugh at it and keep going?
They laugh.
And what about the courts being able to name young kids now? What do you think about that?
Fun, I guess.
Kirsten Clark must think shoplifting and being a public nuisance is fun too. At 16, she's a repeat offender, which means legally we can now identify her. Today, stealing jewellery from a major retailer saw her walk away with a 3-month good behaviour bond.
And they just get probation. If they don't do it, they get a warning after that.
We wanted to find out exactly how tough or lenient the courts are being on these kids and how many chances are they really being given. So we spent 3 weeks coming to children's courts, and what we found is that the legal fraternity is not at all happy with the new naming and shaming laws.
Why go on to punish them further just to satisfy some form of desire for revenge?
Are you sorry for what you did?
Oh, suck my
This girl is 14. She is a repeat offender with a history of arson, theft and assault. Beside her, in his I Run the World t-shirt, is her 14-year-old boyfriend, also a repeat offender, both on public nuisance charges. The reason why we have to blur their faces is because not all magistrates are happy about opening their courtrooms. It's making the desperate parents very angry.
What about your parents? What do you say to your parents? Is it funny?
It was a joke. And it's always going to be a joke until the clowns on the bench stop making it into a circus.
The girl's parents have been in and out of court with her for years. They support the naming and shaming of repeat offenders and are calling on the courts to utilise the new laws.
It all started when I brought her a dress when she was 10. And it was the wrong dress and she put a knife at me. That's how it all started. And then it just went downhill.
The girl's mum has pleaded with the courts for her to be locked up and says behind closed courtroom doors, kids have been able to play the legal system.
You're 14, you're in court. Aren't you sorry for that?
She asked for an adjournment and the judge just gave it to her. And so I stood up and said, it has to change. She doesn't go to school, she doesn't work, she's got all day, she's got no real reason to adjourn it, and the courts are just allowing it because she doesn't want to deal with it today.
What's the future hold for you if you're in court at 14?
You go to court, you're sitting in the waiting room, and the kids at 14, they'll tell you, oh, I'm just going to get a slap on the wrist. They're not going to do anything. And when you go in there, sure enough, they get the slap on the wrist. They get told they have to go to do probation or justice of the peace, whatever they like to call it. They don't go. They get breaches on that, nothing happens. And that's what it's been the circle of life with us for the last couple of years.
Our investigation makes a mockery of the new laws and what they're supposed to achieve. time after time, lawyers successfully argued to have the Children's Court closed. On one occasion, a magistrate even started the day by making a blanket statement that the court would be closed for every case. As a member of the media, I then had to approach the bar table and argue the merits of the law. Even on the few occasions when I was allowed to stay inside the court, the magistrate would make a non-publication order, which meant I still could not identify the child. What is clear is that getting tough on young repeat offenders is an issue that's dividing every sector of the community.
But it was always the intention that the majority, by far the majority, of young, repeat arrogant young offenders actually should be named and shamed.
Queensland Attorney General Jared Blay now wants to see the numbers on how many kids are still being protected.
The legislation's fairly clear, the intention of the government was fairly clear, and if the government's intentions are not being borne out in the courts and in the system, then we'll certainly look at changing it.
Are your kids sorry for the trouble you're causing?
No.
Why?
Making the Attorney General's job difficult is the fact the legal fraternity continues to fight to circumvent naming and shaming laws. Lawyer Bill Potts.
Young children have generally been granted some form of anonymity because it's recognised that as we grow up, we do mature, we do change, and we can learn to effectively rehabilitate ourselves.
Do you think these kids need to be named and shamed?
Well, I suppose if they do something serious.
The reality is for many of the young people who are repeat offenders, that they come from homes of great dysfunction, from drug addiction, from child abuse. And in these circumstances, the naming of these people does little to help them and in fact does everything to hurt them.
Ferals. That's exactly what I said, they're just little ferals.
For 2 days in March, gangs of kids went wild in a small Queensland town, destroying a community centre playground and turning sun sails into trampolines. The kids caused $8,000 damage. When they realised they were being recorded, they simply tore down the camera. Faye Whiffen already had all the evidence she needed, but police told her not to bother going to court.
The police highly recommended the youth justice conferencing because when they go to court, the education that they get from the court is more how to get away, how to do whatever they like and get away with it.
Christina Larson is hoping her 12-year-old son Nathan will learn his lesson by repaying his debt. But if he doesn't, she isn't against a tougher punishment.
The ones that get a slap on the wrist, most of them just go and do it again.
Yeah, you can't show anything on the telly.
I know the community would love to see kids thrown away in jail for a long time, and I know that's not the solution.
Acting Inspector James Coates of the Queensland Police blames parents, not the justice system, for badly behaved kids.
The parents I take aim at is those who ignore their own children. You know, they may as well not have kids. They let them exist in the community and then just let them loose. Take no responsibility.
The parents we've spoken to maintain tougher penalties. Not taking a swipe at parents is needed to force repeat child offenders to take responsibility for their own actions. The Attorney General, at least, is prepared to go one step further in his fight.
We've got to rebalance the scales of justice.
I think if everyone actually saw what was happening in the court, there would be a revolt against the judges, because it's absolutely disgusting.
Well, what do you think? Should young criminals be named and shamed? Have your say on our Facebook page and on Twitter.